The desert did not forgive. It did not forget. And it did not care who walked into it. By the time the sun rose high over the Wild West sky, the land had already erased the last sign of the wagon trail. Wind swept over the as if wiping away a mistake, leaving nothing but cracked earth, scattered, and a horizon that never seemed to end. In that endless silence, an 18-year-old girl walked alone, her uneven but determined, her shadow the only thing that refused to leave her. Her name was Lila Mercer, and she was not supposed to be there. It had happened so fast that her mind could barely hold onto the memory. One moment there had been the rattling sound of wooden wheels, her father guiding the horses, her mother humming softly beside her. The next moment there was shouting, sharp, urgent, and then gunfire that shattered everything. The horses had panicked, the wagon lurched violently, and the world turned upside down. Lila remembered the ground hitting her hard, the air knocked from her lungs, and then dust, thick, choking dust, filling her eyes and mouth. When she stood again, the wagon was gone. The sound of danger faded into the distance, leaving behind only silence. At first, she called out for her parents. Her voice cracked under the weight of fear, swallowed by the vast emptiness around her. There was no answer, not even an echo, just the wind, moving like it knew something she didn't. Panic rose inside her, sharp and suffocating, but she forced it down. Her father had always told her that fear would get you killed faster than anything else. So she swallowed it, even as her hands trembled, and chose a direction to walk. It didn't matter which way she went. Every direction looked the same. The sun climbed higher, burning the back of her neck. Her throat grew dry, her lips cracking as the heat drained the strength from her body. Hours passed, though they felt like days. Her legs ached, but she didn't stop. Stopping felt too close to giving up, and giving up felt too much like dying. By the time night came, the desert transformed. The heat vanished, replaced by a cold that crept into her bones. The sky opened above her, filled with stars brighter than she had ever seen, but their beauty did nothing to ease the fear pressing down on her chest. She curled beneath a jagged rock, hugging herself tightly, listening to distant howls and the quiet movement of unseen creatures. She didn't sleep. Every time her eyes closed, she saw flashes of the attack, heard the crack of gunfire, felt the ground rushing up to meet her again. Morning came too soon, and with it, the cruel return of the sun. She kept walking. On the second day, her strength began to fade. Her steps slowed, her vision blurred at the edges. The world shimmered, bending under the heat. That was when she saw him. At first, she thought he was a mirage. A figure standing in the distance, still as a shadow, watching her. She blinked, expecting him to disappear, but he didn't. "Hello," she called, her voice weak but desperate. The figure remained. Something inside her pushed her forward. Fear warned her to stay away, but hope pulled stronger. She stumbled toward him, each step heavier than the last, until his shape became clear. A man, tall, dust-covered, his face partly hidden beneath the shadow of his hat. A gun rested at his side, quiet but threatening. Danger stood right in front of her. But so did salvation. "You real?" she asked, barely able to hold herself upright. The man tilted his head slightly, studying her as if deciding something important. "Last I checked," he replied, his voice low and rough. Relief hit her so hard she nearly collapsed. "I'm lost," she said. "I can see that." His name was Cole Bennett, and he was not the kind of man people easily trusted. He didn't smile much, didn't speak more than necessary, and his eyes carried a weight that spoke of things he had seen and things he wished he hadn't. But he gave her water. And in the desert, that made him the difference between life and death. "Drink slow," he told her, handing over the canteen. She obeyed, the cool water burning her throat in the best way possible. It tasted like hope. They didn't agree to travel together. It just happened. He walked, and she followed. Or maybe she walked, and he didn't leave. Either way, they moved through the desert side by side, two strangers bound by survival. Cole knew the land. He read it in ways she couldn't understand, guiding them through rocky paths and open stretches where the ground held secrets invisible to her. Lila watched him carefully, learning, trusting, but never completely letting her guard down. "What are you running from?" she asked him one evening as they sat beneath a fading sky. He didn't answer right away. "Something I can't fix," he said finally. She didn't press. Everyone had something they were trying to outrun. Days passed, each one harder than the last. The sun burned. The nights froze. Their supplies grew thinner. Still, they kept moving. Then came the storm. It rose without warning, a wall of wind and sand that swallowed the horizon. The sky darkened, and the air turned violent. "Get down," Cole shouted, grabbing her before she could react. The storm hit like a living thing. Sand tore at her skin, filled her lungs, blinded her completely. She clung to him, terrified, as the world disappeared into chaos. His arms held her steady, his voice cutting through the roar, telling her to hold on. When it ended, the desert had changed. Everything was different. They were lost, truly lost. By the fourth day, Lila could barely stand. Her body felt heavy, her mind clouded by exhaustion. She stumbled, falling to her knees as the strength left her completely. "I can't," she whispered, her voice breaking. Cole knelt beside her, his expression hard but not unkind. "You don't get to quit," he said. "I'm tired," she said, tears slipping down her face. "I can't do this anymore." He gripped her shoulders, forcing her to look at him. "Yes, you can. How do you know?" "Because I've seen people who couldn't," he said quietly. "And you're still here." Something in his voice reached her, cutting through the fear and pain. "Get up," he said. And somehow, she did. That night, under a sky filled with endless stars, he told her the truth. He had once been a lawman. He had made a mistake, trusted the wrong people, and innocent lives had paid the price. Since then, he hadn't stayed anywhere long enough to belong. "I don't deserve to," he said. Lila looked at him, really looked at him, and saw not a dangerous man, but a broken one. "Maybe you do," she said softly. Somewhere along the journey, something shifted between them. It wasn't loud or sudden. It grew quietly, like a flame protected from the wind. In the way he made sure she drank water before him. In the way she stayed close, knowing he wouldn't let anything happen to her. One night, their hands brushed, and neither pulled away. In a world that offered nothing but hardship, they found something warm. Something real. On the seventh day, they saw it, a small settlement in the distance, smoke rising into the sky. Life. Lila's heart filled with relief so strong it almost hurt. "We made it," she whispered. Cole stood beside her, silent. She turned to him. "Come with me." He shook his head. "This is where you're safe. And you." "I keep moving." She stepped closer, her chest tight with something she didn't want to name. "You don't have to." For the first time, he hesitated. "I was going to die out there," she said. "But I didn't. Because of you." "That was you," he replied. "No," she said gently. "You gave me a reason." The wind moved around them, quieter now, as if the desert itself was listening. "Stay," she said, just one word, but it held everything. Cole looked at her for a long moment, the weight in his eyes shifting into something softer, something uncertain, but hopeful. And then, slowly, he nodded. The desert still stretched beyond them, endless and unforgiving. It would always be that way. It would always test those who dared to cross it. But it had not taken her. Lila Mercer, the girl who had been lost, stood at the edge of a new beginning. And beside her stood a man who had spent years running, finally choosing, for the first time, to stay. The desert did not forgive. It did not forget. But sometimes, against all odds, it let someone live.